I will now entertain a motion to approve the work session and regular meeting agendas.
Madam Mayor.
Oh.
Jeff, go ahead.
I move to approve the work session and regular meeting agendas as presented.
All righty. Is there a second? Is
I'll second.
there any further discussion? Righty. Ms. Smith, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Overholter,
Aye.
Ms. Woods, Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Airwood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
I hate to interrupt, but could you make me acting clerk,
Yeah.
please? Oh.
I move that Morgan Smith be appointed as acting clerk of council for the recordation of the proceedings of Staunton City Council in its work session and regular meeting of February 13th, 2025, and that she be authorized and directed to sign and execute such documents as are necessary and proper regarding the presence of council members, a quorum, consideration, and voting.
Thank you, Counselor Overholter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Or any further discussion? Okay. Miss, does this require a roll call?
And she can do the roll call.
Ms. Smith, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Mr. Overholter,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Airwood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our first item of business this evening is the Central Shenandoah Valley Office on Youth FY 2024 Annual Report and 2025-2028 Strategic Plan. Ms. Beauregard.
Jenny Newman, the Director of the Office on Youth, is here this evening to provide this report.
Good evening, Ms. Newman. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and council members.
Sorry, just a second, Jenny,
Yeah.
please.
Hi, do you have a presentation? There we go.
There.
Thank you. And I believe you have the information in your packets as well. So for those of you that have not heard of the Central Shenandoah Valley Office on Youth, we've been around since 1978. And we merged with the Staunton and the Waynesboro offices with Augusta County in 2000. In 2022, the Virginia General Assembly did reauthorize the offices on youth. It's code 6626 through 35, which establishes delinquency prevention, the Youth Citizens Board, and the criteria for local offices on youth. Currently, we're only about one of three of the offices that are left in the state because funding has been divided and pulled multiple times over the years. And I'm very thankful to the localities for helping to sustain us compared to other localities that lost their offices on youth. Hi. So our vision is simple, a community where all youth reach their greatest potential. It seems very simplistic and it's complicated at the same time, as you can see by our mission statement. The office is always assessing community needs and responds to these needs by developing new services and/or seeking to enhance existing services as needed to fill identified gaps. And we do this by working with other youth serving agencies. At this point in time, we do not assess the students themselves through any sort of surveys. That had stopped back in 2014, unfortunately, but we use any and all data that we can obtain from the state and the schools. As well as working with parents and other government departments. And do that. All right. We have multiple divisions. I'll just tell you a little bit about each division. Our Family Services Division actually has 7 different parent support programs for parents, guardians, and grandparents who are under in a variety of circumstances, whether they just need a quick question answered on, what should I do with my child, my grandchild? Are there services in the community for them? Or maybe a program will fit to challenging children and defiant children. Through our programs, we help support and strengthen parents' abilities to be active and engaged in the lives of the children, which can reduce stress in the family. The Safe Routes to School program and Healthy Community Action Team That's a national program. We first introduced it in Waynesboro City under a grant with Waynesboro City Schools and have since continued to expand this program. It is bicycle and pedestrian safety program. We do this to enhance physical and mental health and reduce congestion around the schools. Our goal is that more youth will start to ride bikes and walk to school. We currently have a grant through the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth, also working on obesity and encouraging children and families to move more. Personal responsibility education program. Some of you may remember teen pregnancy prevention was a program that we did at one time. This falls directly under this, but we've expanded so much of what we do to social media, internet safety, bullying prevention. And we work with other professionals as well as in the schools, with the community and with parents. So we cover a great deal of things there. Skipped over my notes here. Our Virginia Juvenile Community Crime Control Act, that comes directly from the state, and most offices on youth still receive that to do detention alternatives and diversionary programs. We work directly with the court service unit for Staunton, Waynesboro, and Augusta County right now and provide those programs. Truancy prevention and intervention. Check and Connect is a mentorship program. It's evidence-based. We provide it in partnership with the schools of Staunton, Waynesboro, and Augusta County. The mentors build long-term sustained relationships with participating students, and we work with them on attendance, engagement, and academic progress. And then our outreach program right now is Community in Motion. This is a program that is expanding throughout the entire region as well. We try to connect individuals and families in their community with essential resources. We have a vehicle and we bring it directly into the communities or into events. We work with multiple community partners to have their resources on the vehicle and or to have them do signups. Kindergarten signup can be done, preschool signup, all these different types of things can be done right there. The health department also brings services there as they can. So depending on where we are and what we're doing and who's available. And then we try to find out from that specific community what their needs are so that we can make sure that we're bringing proper resources to them. And who is our team? We do this with 7 full-time staff, 4 part-time regular staff, 4 part-time staff that kind of come and go, and outreach assistants and facilitators that are all trained. So to touch on our strategic plan, under our program goals, we had a plan that went from 2022 to 2024. It was originally supposed to be a 3-year plan, expanded because of COVID by that 1 year. But the Youth Commission and our staff worked on this to rewrite the strategic plan, and we have started this January 1. So our program goals, in your packet, you'll see under each, there are objectives and outputs there with the strategies under each goal. So goal number 1, provide youth with skills and knowledge. Our Check and Connect program, our prep program, and our safe routes to school fall under there. Again, trying to help students navigate life, develop healthy decision-making, all falls there. Strengthen family engagement. Those are evidence-based parenting programs. We've started a fatherhood initiative, which is also under there. This is in connection with Department of Social Services and a grant that they have. We're looking to enhance fathers to understand the role that they play in children's lives and the impacts that they have on children and their family. And then our Community in Motion program falls under that goal too. And Screenagers Project. This is a new program. It is a grant through Augusta Health, which allowed us to obtain 3 licenses for 3 years. It is a docu-series. It now has 4 programs in it, and we're bringing that into the schools and into the community and finding different ways to offer this. It deals with screen time, the impact it has on teens' decision-making in relation to vaping, drugs, and alcohol. Goal 3, to provide timely and responsive services to the courts. It's really just that. We have court-approved parent education programs. You can find us in the state courts. We're registered. And then our detention alternative and diversionary programs that go through the Virginia Crime Control Act. Goal 4, reduce public funded schools and Children's Services Act, utilize public funding more efficiently. you see the numbers that come through for foster care, CSA, things like that. So one of our goals to work with them, and I do sit on those teams because those teams started actually out of the offices on youth. We've developed a regional multidisciplinary truancy board. So our hope is that instead of sending youth directly to the judge once they've missed too many days, that they'll come to the truancy board instead. We can provide a lot of those services and help the family to re-navigate some things and hopefully maintain them in school. So this is a step beyond the Check and Connect program and avoid them from going to the court and in front of the judge. And then our organizational goals, reviewing program implementation, that's really on myself and my supervisors to make sure that we're doing evidence-based programs, data collection, staff training, increase awareness of OOY programs, goal two there. We're revamping our marketing program and the use of social media. We don't need just 900 parents following us. We're trying to find ways for youth to follow us as well. So we're trying to enhance that and trying to reach more people in the community. And then improve community collaborations with other youth serving agencies. The youth commissioners have asked me to really tally that. How many meetings do we have? How many times are we meeting with other groups? And what are the results of that? What are we moving forward? Are we writing grants? Are new programs being created? So we actually look at those types of things. Any questions from the strategic plan?
Yes, Ms. Newman, I just had a question about kids going before the judge for truancy. I wonder if parents are ever brought before a judge for truancy. Are they held responsible for kids not being in school, or is it strictly on the child?
No, sometimes parents are brought. That's all done by the schools. It's never done by our office. I do sit on a couple of teams that look at that, working with the schools, the courts, and social services to look at that whole picture and when it's most appropriate for the youth to go before the judge and/or it's a separate set of charges that have to be filed against the parent. So it's two different sections of law. If they're older students, which is what we're working with in our Check and Connect program, we work with middle school and high school right now. We don't have the staffing to work with elementary school. More than likely, it's going to be the youth. If it's elementary school, it's more than likely going to be the parents. You don't want to bring those little ones under 10 before a judge.
Thank you.
Sure. And our annual report is in your packet for the full thing. I just wanted to do a slide here to highlight some of the things from fiscal year 24. So our crime control program, we had 53 juveniles who were on detention alternative services. Detention alternative services include electronic monitoring, ankle monitors. It also is surveillance where we have people go out and check in, sometimes 5 times a week and by phone. So either in person or by phone. It's house arrest, those types of things are detention alternatives. So those are actually keeping the student with the family rather than in detention until their court hearing or until other things can be moved forward with services for that youth. And then the diversionary programs can be life skills, anger management, alcohol prevention, alcohol and substance abuse prevention, things of those sort that we get the youth connected with. Our family services, parenting programs, again, 353 parents received services. We do have an 87% completion rate right now. Our programs are offered in a hybrid format. We have our office in Staunton and our office in Waynesboro set up. So when we're doing a class at either, parents can participate in person or they can participate by Zoom. The Check and Connect Truancy Prevention Program, we served 108 students last year. That is across the 3 school districts. Staunton, right now, I can tell you, we have a caseload of probably 40 kids alone between the middle school and the high school. And we're having a successful participation rate. We were not able to collect all the information that we wanted to across the 3 school districts for attendance and grades we have remedied that into this school year finally. It's taken a process for us to be able to do all of that, but we have seen an increase in grades and attendance across the board. I just don't have a final number on that, a good clear number. 210 third and fifth grade students at McSwain Elementary School participated in bicycle safety. That was the first school to say yes to us here in Staunton. We are providing those services in the elementary schools in Waynesboro City. This year, we're adding the other two elementary schools here in Staunton. So we're very excited about that. And then personal responsibility education, 4th through 10th grade, we provide services. That's during health and PE. So your 4th and 5th graders are getting their basic level hygiene, puberty changes, and some safety. And then you move into middle school and it gets more into the cyber stuff. You move into high school, it gets some other things. One thing we added this year that we did not have last year is human trafficking. Under the law in Virginia, human trafficking has to be taught. I have multiple staff now that are licensed through an evidence-based program that is a nationally recognized program. And we are teaching that to 6th, 7th, actually 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 10th graders at this point in time. Anything about our annual report? And just some of our collaborations. As I said, this is something that I track. Beyond this, these are the ones that we collaborate with on an ongoing basis. Just continuous. It may not be those weekly and monthly meetings, but we're always touching base. Sometimes I have other staff that are assigned actually to sit on boards and to work with individuals. If an issue comes up, these individuals call us very quickly and we try to put our heads together to find out other things and what we can do to address the issues. And there is my contact information. Does anybody have any other questions? Because your packet, I sent a lot of stuff, a lot of information in there.
Yes, a question that I want to ask all our community partners. What sort of trends do you see in terms of new challenges, changes?
Sure. The biggest trends that we're seeing right now, one, truancy is after COVID, truancy became an issue. And that's national. It's not just local. Vaping is a very big issue. And that is not just in the high schools, that goes all the way down to the elementary schools. Our prep curriculum includes vaping information and we use the CATCH program. That's through the Lung Association. So that is a program that we're using with the kids to try to get them to understand that vaping just is not safe. We did really, really well for years. Cigarettes. Kids don't want to touch cigarettes, but they think the vaping's okay now. The other unfortunate thing with vaping is you can vape THC. So, that's an issue. The other issue that we're seeing is the edibles. So THC edibles are a problem, and those do unfortunately fall into the hands of little kids. They're also in the schools. And I think there's been quite a consensus just of mental health in general. Our teens are stressed in a different way right now. We're trying to find ways to address that. It's something new, newer, that it's so across the board. So again, getting kids to move more. This is how some of our programs tie in together, and tie that into some of the mental health and how we can work with some other programs in the area. Mentor group that comes over from Charlottesville as well. They do a lot more outside. So we try to connect those kids with those. And then of course with counseling groups if needed.
I'll just share that I've served as council liaison to Office on Youth, and it's been great to see and learn how many services you all provide to the community. It's been eye-opening for me. I took my oldest middle schooler to the screening of Screenagers at Wayne Theater last year. That's a great program. I would highly recommend it. It gives presents the material in a way that you can easily have conversations afterwards. And then my youngest participated in the bicycle program at McSwain, and the kids loved that. So I saw Steve with Office on Youth out there bringing the trolley with all the bikes on it, and it was amazing to see all of them participate in an activity like that. So I would certainly encourage our city to get more involved from a safe routes to school coordinator standpoint. Waynesboro does a lot of great things, and I think we could piggyback off of that moving forward as well.
Yes, the bikes are owned by us, and we actually bring them to the schools. I didn't clarify that if you're not familiar with the program. So when they do bicycle safety, we're bringing the bikes, we're bringing the helmets, we're teaching them how to put on the helmet, we're teaching them how to check their bike for everything. It's not just put you on a bike or bring your bike to school day and you sail off. So it is much more involved than that.
Any more questions from council? I just think it's amazing that with 7 staff, you're serving the whole the 3 localities,
Yes, ma'am.
and you're doing it in partnership with the school system, like,
Yes.
and 4 part-time staff. And it seems amazing to me, and I just really congratulate you. Hearing the results, they really are life-changing for families, so
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this was an eye opener for me. I wasn't aware of all of the services that you provide. And I could really see the connections as you were describing all of the things that you do. I could see the connections with the other organizations. So, well done. I hope that the funding continues. You said there were only 3 left in the state?
There's 3 official offices on youth that meet the guidelines and the criteria in the
Yeah.
code right now.
Right.
We were reauthorized. We're in hopes of some additional grant funding to come. Some of the programs became nonprofits. Some of them just focused on a single area. So it's been hard to identify what happened to everybody. So the services are being provided, but not condensed in the same way to one office as we do in the 3 offices that still exist as we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Is there a need for volunteers? Do you find the help that you need from parents or?
Volunteers, is that what you asked? Yeah, volunteers are hard to use for us because if we're doing programs directly in the schools, we background check everybody, including our volunteers. And a lot of what we do is so specialized, the training. So when we're doing big events though, I try to get my youth commissioners to come out and I invite volunteers to come. You'll see us at almost any health, wellness, community event in some form. So at this point in time, we don't have a need for volunteers. I'm hoping in the future as we expand that we'll find that need.
Good question.
Mm.
Thank you, Ms. Newman. We
Thank
hope
you.
to see you
Thank you.
again. All righty, well, we'll now move on to an update on Virginia Department of Transportation, Richmond Avenue Road Diet and Roundabout, and Edgewood Sidewalk projects.
Madam Mayor, before we begin this agenda item, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3112, I hereby disclose that I work for the Virginia Department of Transportation and I am a member of a group of 3 or more VDOT employees affected by this transaction. For purposes of this item, I only intend to provide information about the project that can be of assistance to other members of council. I do not plan to participate in discussions about any ultimate policy or financial decisions that the council may make about this item. Therefore, in accordance with the statute, I can participate fairly, objectively, and in the public interest by providing information about the proposed VDOT project. I reiterate that I will not participate in any policy or financial decision related to the proposed project. I will simply assist in answering any questions that council may have about the proposed project if my input can be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Ms. Beauregard.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to kick it off and Mr. Hart and we're going to tag team this presentation because he's the technical expert. But we also have Mr. Rodney Rhodes here who can speak if there are any questions that come up about the bike ped plan, and Ms. Moyers is here as well to talk about funding options. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. Okay, we felt it was important to do a quick review of where we've been since 3 of you were not on city council. Last year, actually around this time, Mr. Hart provided an update on all the VDOT projects that were coming up. So not just about the ones we're talking about tonight, but on all of them. Fast forward a few months, late summer to fall, staff learned that Richmond Avenue Road Diet and Roundabout project was way over budget. And on November 14th, VDOT came to City Council and provided an update and presented some options. And that was really just about the roundabout at that time. Since that time, after that meeting and this first few months of this year already, staff's been working with VDOT on various options. We've received more information about the Edgewood Sidewalk project, which is also over budget. And then tonight is an update, and we're asking for some guidance from you all tonight as far as what we're going to communicate to VDOT, and in particular about the Edgewood Sidewalk project and how to proceed with that. So I'm going to start with the Richmond Avenue Roundabout Road Diet project. Here's the original concept and the budget. So the original VDOT Smart Scale funding was 2.25 million. The revised estimate in 2024 was 15.8. That was a 2-lane roundabout and road diet with raised medians and shared use path. That's a funding gap of 13.5 million. And that's what VDOT went over in November when they came to speak with you. So here's the original concept, and I can let Lyle speak to this more if you have questions. This just breaks out, this just shows you what it was going to look like. And this was originally 2.25 million, as I said, and this ballooned to 15.8. And if you have questions about this, Lyle's here, but this is not really an option anymore. Obviously, it's the money, it's an atrocious amount. So we're not recommending this, but we're just showing it to you for history's sake. And it was also a 2-lane roundabout. I'm not sure I mentioned that. It was originally a 2-lane roundabout. And the diet went all the way up. What point did the diet go up to on this one?
Roughly the top of the hill
Yeah.
there, on up past Village Drive, to the, you can see it there on the display, but, before you get to the kind of clearing where they have you can see the mini storage up on the south side.
So here's what they came back and showed to staff as a revised budget and concept. They have since told the city that the 7.5 million will be fully funded, which is just the roundabout, and it's now a 1-lane roundabout. It will also include any necessary transition to the roundabout from Richmond Avenue. Greenville, don't even think about that. That is fine. That will transition obviously from that end into the roundabout. So we're not talking about Greenville at all. That project is fine, is on track. As far as the road diet, there is no VDOT funding available. And we'd asked this question of them based on discussions with you all. Can we transfer Edgewood sidewalk money, if that were an option, into this? And they said no, they would not allow that. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. So any road diet requires local funds. So here's the revised concept this is basically the $7.5 million project. And I'll let Lyle talk through what this includes.
Sure. Thanks, Leslie. So this is what VDOT had shown as, I think it was alternative number 2 in their November 14th meeting. And so this is $7.5 million project according to their estimates. And it would interface with on your screen, it would be the left side, which is going south on Greenville Avenue, interface with the proposed Greenville Avenue Road Diet project. And then on the bottom of the screen, which is going east on Richmond Avenue, have basically just enough of a transition. It shows a raised median there. That's kind of the green part in the middle. And just along the edges there on the left side, a little bit of a sidewalk. And then on the right, the shared use path that would go to the north through the underpass and can connect across Commerce to the proposed Commerce Road, Lewis Creek Greenway shared use path. But again, this is a 1-lane roundabout. And I'll mention, address some of the traffic issues there. As VDOT mentioned at their November meeting, the original scope has a 2-lane roundabout. And VDOT was looking at historical data, and there's actually been a downward trend both on Richmond Avenue and Greenville Avenue of traffic. And so when they go to model for projected traffic in the future for planning purposes, they're not going to show a negative growth rate. So they went ahead and showed a 0.5% growth rate and modeled it for 24 years out. So roughly to 2040. And it still showed that the single lane would be adequate and would handle it and still be, still provide sufficient level of service. So this is the, again, what they had shown, roundabout only. So since that time, they knew that we were looking at the possibility of, hey, can we do some road diet? Granted, we can't go all the way to the top of the hill like originally we had scoped. And so their VDOT and their design team are proceeding with the design for the roundabout itself, but also came up with this, which is in addition to the roundabout just shown single lane, there's a section of road diet that extends up to the right there, which is to the east, to Village Drive. And it's about 700 linear feet of sidewalk on the south side that would connect to their Village Drive for pedestrian access along south side of Richmond Avenue, about 500 or so additional feet of the raised concrete median, and then also the shared use path that would extend from the previous proposed terminus at the roundabout and go east up to just across from the Village Drive there. So we would love to have extended it further, but to go much further, you'd have to go do a fair amount more on the east side of West Village Drive to allow for those preparation for the turning movements and everything in there. So this is what they showed. It seemed like a logical point to, hey, we can have some roundabout, or excuse me, some road diet that would get us at least to Village Drive. Maybe in the future we could continue to extend further east. And this, according to their estimate, came to $1.36 million. And they said this would need to be all local funds because they managed to find $7.5 million for the roundabout, but this would all be local funds.
Any questions about that? Because we're going to move on to Edgewood.
Okay, so when you talk about road diet for somebody that doesn't know what that all entails, what does it entail?
So usually it's using the existing roadway. And if you're familiar there with this section of Richmond Avenue, there's basically 5 lanes of pavement. And back around the late 60s, early 70s, when that was constructed, that was kind of the, for lack of a better word, the fad, a lot what was going on. Let's get a lot more pavement. We handle more traffic. It was very much focused on, handling vehicles, and also is anticipating larger traffic volumes in the future. And so a road diet basically will use some of the existing roadway, but I should say reuse it for other purposes. So in this case, it would be, you would still have 1 lane in each direction, or I should say you have 1 lane in each direction, an eastbound and a westbound, but allow for pedestrian uses and multimodal uses such as the shared use path, which is a paved bike pedestrian path to the side with a grass buffer. And then of course the sidewalk to the south side. And with the median, it allows a kind of a gateway feel and a more aesthetically pleasing feel, but it also with the curbed on median, and also kind of the psychological aspect of a narrower driving path helps folks to slow down and not go as fast. Also, if you don't need multiple lanes, then doing away with multiple lanes is safer because you have less lane changes and things that would be more likely to cause accidents.
Okay, thank you.
And all the studies that VDOT have shown are telling us that we don't need multiple lanes because here we're cutting down from my primary concern with the single lane roundabout. I mean, we've been talking about, I guess, the double lane roundabout since 2016 or something like that. And we were told there wasn't enough money for it. Then we're told you don't need it anyway. But in this, the area of concern, at least for me, and I'm not a traffic engineer, is we're going from 2 lanes going west, excuse me, on Richmond Road, and then as you go north under the railroad bridge there's that light that stacks up traffic there, and we're going to one lane of stacking up traffic, and that will stop a single lane roundabout. And you will not, for people wanting to go left, south on Greenville there, they won't be able to make that turn. They'll be part of that lineup as well. It makes sense to me that several of the other directions on there would be able to continue moving because there's a longer area for the cars to go in. But that's my area of concern about this, because I just see that light under the railroad bridge as a continuation of this intersection, just because it can stop all of that in your path. So, I mean, that's my primary issue with it. And running it down to one lane seems like it would back it up the hill there for all functions of that area. And they don't feel that this is an issue.
Right. We posed the same question to them and wanted some assurance, and they said it should still work. And one of the reasons it would be I guess another factor to take into consider is with a roundabout there, that takes out the traffic light at Richmond Avenue. So you now have a kind of an independent traffic signal there at the Commerce Coulter intersection. So you could allow for a longer phase for the traffic to get through that, and you wouldn't have to adjust any other signals adjacent to that. Possibly even time it for the time of day, because it's primarily, obviously in the morning and evening times, and when you have your peak hours, and in the direction based on that as well. So there could be additional flexibility in how that signal is operated, which could help, that could even be adjusted to allow for more pass through in certain directions at certain times of day at the Commerce Culture intersection.
Okay, so just lengthening that green, going under there and keeping that flowing straight up that hill, up Coulter and to the left into downtown. That's
And
what,
there'd be two lanes, kind of,
yeah, after the
once
intersection, there's
once
two
you
lanes.
get out of the roundabout, the first exit there, going north, there'd be the two lanes.
Yeah, we go 2 to 1 to 2 right there. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be two lanes further back, coming down Richmond, and then enter the one for the last block.
Can I just add something for clarification? Counselor Arrowood, you're absolutely correct to look at that as a single intersection, because those lights are so close together. They're running as a single light. They're on the same controller. So it's a very inefficient signal because of how big the intersection is. So by taking one of those out, you have a lot more control over the efficiency of the remaining signal at the watering can.
So that single light beyond the bridge effectively becomes the only signal for that intersection in that way. Okay. Is it, now in this, we're actively taking 2 lanes further up the hill down to 1, then bringing it back to 2. Is there any argument for keeping that as a 2-lane going down that hill and then deflecting off the edge of the roundabout? We wouldn't have to call it a 2-lane roundabout, but just for a moment, it would have 2 lanes. But it seems like we're squishing traffic into 1 lane and then rapidly bringing it back out to 2 lanes.
Is that because you have the light there, and will that second lane be a turning lane onto Commerce, or will it be a straight lane going up the hill on Coulter? As you see, right?
Right, as you would
Right.
exit the roundabout to go north.
Right.
But it
Yes.
means like-
It would
Instead of
be,
going to Commerce.
you could either go, in the left lane would be a left turn only to go downtown onto
Right.
to Greenville. And then if you were in the right lane, it's be a combined straight through and right turn, straight through to Coulter, or a right turn.
Or a
onto
right turn,
Commerce.
right, okay.
That's how they have it
Okay,
proposed now.
that's what I was trying to understand. That's why it's 2. So with Counselor Arrowood's comment about coming down off the hill or Greenville Avenue, North Coulter, that light there. So what happens when you're coming off of Greenville Avenue where the watering can is and you want to go straight onto Commerce. It's-
Coming from downtown?
Yes,
Okay.
so you
Straight
can-
across.
Right, going straight across, because you could either bear right as you're going to Greenville to Richmond, or you can go straight going to Commerce.
The current design they have is, it would stay the same configuration there. There would be, at a minimum, there would be some improvements for pedestrian improvements at that, the Commerce Coulter intersection, I'll call it. But there would still be the sweeping right lane there to turn right to come toward, to go south toward the roundabout coming from downtown. But you would still come to the stop bar at the traffic light to go straight onto Commerce.
Right, because you were saying like utilizing that light for the traffic flow. But as it is now, sometimes it's hard making that right because you're at that light and the cars are going straight and it's hard to make that curve. And it's backed up sometimes on an extension of Greenville Avenue right there when you're coming from downtown.
Yes, I think that's primarily in the evenings. And so
In the
when
mornings.
people are coming out, the peak hour in the evening.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the thought there is if you don't have a light to wait at Richmond Avenue, it can continue, they can merge continuously to come down to the roundabout, and whether they're going to continue south on Greenville Avenue, they can, or continue the roundabout and exit to the east to go up Richmond. So with the roundabout, it'll be more a continuous flow of traffic. Right now it gets backed up because folks coming to the light at Richmond Avenue are having to wait to turn left, to wait for that to cycle through so they can turn left. With the proposed roundabout, they would just merge into the roundabout and continue either through south or make their way left effectively to go east on Richmond.
Yeah, that function of the intersection, it just makes sense to me. Yeah, it just seems like it would continually keep moving, keep flowing. You could go east on Richmond Road very easily on there. It's just that one part that gets me a little bit.
So bottom line question, is it true that this single lane roundabout would be anticipated that it would be safer, result in fewer accidents than the current intersection, and it would more efficiently manage the traffic, that people would get through this intersection faster?
That's correct. It's anticipated to be both safer and more efficient. That's primarily what roundabouts do. The downside of roundabouts is they take up a lot more space and they cost more to construct, and which is part of why we're here, but tonight. But the one thing about the safety is certainly with vehicular crashes, even if it didn't reduce the total number, the type of crash that it would be reduced, they're less likely to have serious injuries.
Less severe.
And also with another factor of a roundabout is it allows for safer pedestrian crossings. Because you can see there in the diagram, there's most of those pedestrian crossings, because of the refuge and the one-way aspect of the roundabout, you're only having to check for one direction of traffic at once to walk across, and you don't have
Right.
as many lanes.
Right.
And we're have some discussions about how difficult it is to cross Greenville Avenue there across from the villages, and also Richmond Avenue. So this would be a way to get cross both of those in a safer manner as a pedestrian.
So the one lane is what's going to increase the safety of crossing.
That's a major factor. You just don't have to hurry as fast to walk across 5 lanes or 3 or however many, there'll just be one lane. And the direction, you're not having to look at multiple directions. You're just looking to the right.
And you have that center lane instead of the suicide lane to stand in.
Right. You have the refuge, the pedestrian refuge in the
Right.
So, Ms. Beauregard, what do you need us to tell you this
I'm gonna
evening?
keep going. If
Okay,
I
yeah.
need to talk about the next.
Sure.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about Edgewood, because this is also this is really over budget as well. The original budget was 1.1 million when the VDOT Smart Scale application was put in and awarded. And this is just a concept. This is a 10% design
Yes.
of the Edgewood sidewalk. It's on the north side of Edgewood between Augusta and Coulter. This is the revised budget. It's between 4 and 4.7, depending on which design you go with. I think VDOT has one, and then
It's same as a different estimate.
Different
The,
estimate.
VDOT had a consultant do the estimate, and that came at the 4. Theirs was 4.7. I think they used different contingencies basically, but it's in that neighborhood. It's gonna be in that neighborhood.
so what VDOT proposed to the city was to take the original smart scale budget of 1.1, cancel the south sidewalk on Augusta Street, that project for 1.48 million, cancel the north sidewalk Augusta Street project for 1.06 million, transfer all those funds to Edgewood, that's 3.6 million, and then you're still left with a gap of between 400,000 and 1.1 million, depending on the final design estimate. So those would be the local funds that the city would be required to come up with if Edgewood were pursued. The other thing that they were very clear about Edgewood is they would like assurances by the end of this month, so we are 2 weeks away from that the project is still feasible based on feedback from property owners. And if council gives us the direction tonight that they would like to pursue this project, we have an outreach process that we'd like to put in place starting tomorrow. Includes hand delivering letters tomorrow to property owners along the north side of Edgewood, and then having one-on-one meetings with property owners, engineering, and community development staff. So as far as what we would like to hear from council tonight, as far as the Richmond Avenue Roundabout Road Diet, the single lane roundabout is under design and fully funded. VDOT surprised us and found all the money for that. So as far as we were concerned, and when we spoke to you about this individually, that seems like it's going to happen. That is under design, like I said, and again, it was a nice surprise that VDOT found the funding to do that. The other piece of that, though, is the road diet, and that's the 1.36 million that if you are interested in doing that portion of it, that would have to be local dollars. As far as Edgewood, we would need to instruct VDOT to cancel the 2 Augusta Street sidewalk projects to help fund Edgewood. Again, the city would need to identify local funds between 400,000 and 1.1 million. And then staff would be directed to engage with property owners to gauge support. And then we would return to council at the second meeting in February with an update. I will say this, it's not an either or thing. Augusta Street will be canceled regardless of what happens. If council decides tonight, we don't want to do Edgewood right now, those 3 projects will essentially go away and 3.6 million will be returned to VDOT for other district needs. We asked them specifically about that, and that was their message to us. So that is those are the decision points tonight. Ms. Moyers is here as well. If you're interested in doing both, either, we've talked about that a little bit to try to figure out where those funds might come from. And like I said, we already have a plan in place that would start an outreach process tomorrow with the property owners. So we're happy to answer any questions.
So with the roundabout, and if we say yes to the road diet of 1.3, all of that has to be done at the same time, right?
Yeah, so they'd like to begin to the design. I mean, they've already started the design of the roundabout, and they'd like to know the answer to the road diet as soon as possible, that they can continue to work on the design of that. That's going to happen pretty fast.
So that means it has to be in this budget, the 1.3.
Yeah, I'll let Jesse speak
Okay.
to that a
Is
little
she
bit. I mean,
crying
we'd
or
like to
anything?
go ahead and identify the funds. We want to make sure that, one, we don't necessarily want to split the funds up necessarily. We probably could do that, but that's probably not a great idea. We want to make sure they're all appropriated. So do you want to speak a little bit to that?
I would hate to enter into a project where we don't have the funds identified on the front side. So we have 3 reserves we could pull from: the new sidewalk reserve, the greenways, and the bike and ped reserve. Now, some of that has to be set aside for the Churchville Avenue streetscape that we have in our CIP, but after that, we have about $1.5 million from those 3 reserves that we could use. And using the upside of the Edgewood of 1.1 and then the 1.36 for Richmond Avenue, that would leave us about $922,000 short. And you would have to pull that out of the undesignated that you set aside in this budget amendment tonight of 2.4 million. So if you want to do both, you take all of the greenways, bike and ped, and new sidewalk reserves, and almost $1 million of the undesignated.
You said $1.5 million in those three funds together?
Duet, $1.5 million, yes.
Can you do the road diet? Is there a possibility of picking that apart, of doing it piecemeal? There's a $75,000 sidewalk piece
I'll let Lab.
on the south side of the road that goes up to the villages. For instance, could we do just that?
So VDOT had kind of broken it down some and said that they said it was roughly 75,000 for that extra 700 feet or so of the sidewalk on that lower side. I think they said it was like 180,000 or so for the raised median there. If we were to, do some changes with that, and that even could be something where, maybe could value engineer out later, because you wouldn't have to do one. I know with the sidewalk to the south, it would provide a way to get from, since the road diet doesn't go all the way up to Village Drive, they're not proposing a crosswalk to get over to the north side from Village Drive. So it'd be kind of nice, and it's really bang for your buck. That's a relatively low cost that they came up with for that length of sidewalk. I think it's because the shoulder's already there and reusing some of the area. So that's, I guess, the short answer to your question. There could be some ways to kind of maybe piecemeal some things, but there would still be some repaving that would need to be done. If you don't do all of it, you lose some economy of scale. Understandably for.
Is there any part of this road diet that's absolutely tied to that? I mean, we can do the roundabout without that road diet. Okay. Meaning that we could also do the road diet later.
Well, just to clarify, we'd still have to do striping. Because you still have to transition from the existing number of lanes down to the. But it could be
Striping we could
pavement
afford,
marking. Yeah, pavement marking could be an easy, cheaper,
Yeah.
short-term fix.
Because the Edgewood project, council's been talking about that for a couple generations off and on.
This is the version that is the 7.5. So you see that, you see there is some, there's still a small shared use path, as Lyle mentioned, and some kind of diet going into the roundabout. And that's within the 7.5. So there would be no local dollars additionally that would go into that project right there. So you'd still get something. So if we just a thought.
Right. If we were to take some of the money from these three funds to put toward the Edgewood project, is it at least part of the Greenway, not the Greenway, but the bike ped plan? It is part of the new sidewalks fund. So, I don't want to take something from something and put it to
So I
something.
think the
that's
funding, the local dollars that Jesse is proposing to cover the 400 to 1.5 is coming from the sidewalk reserves and the
Yeah.
Greenways reserves.
Which is
Yeah.
So
So it is
so
coming from
it
those.
would make sense.
Edgewood
that
could
respect.
come from the new sidewalk and the
Right.
bike and ped, but
Bike-
not the greenways.
Yeah.
So there would be enough there to do Edgewood,
Okay.
between those two, I believe.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Counselors? You want to direct, just aware of the time, we like to direct the city manager to engage in public outreach on the Edgewood project.
Yes.
Nice, alrighty, no, I just wanted
Good.
to, there's a head
Well,
nods.
We don't want
of
to
positive.
lose
And
the
Right.
the $3.5 million
Right,
VDOT,
yeah, it
that's
seems to
funds
just-
that are committed to that project.
Seems to
Okay,
just
so we're
evaporate.
seeming
Okay.
fairly unanimous on
On
move forward with the public outreach for
With Edgewood. Okay, so
Yes.
we'll move forward with that.
Yes.
All right. And so that's good.
I don't know that, how are we
Yeah.
feeling on the
So
last
do you
one?
want to, so I think, I was just whispering to
Road
Lyle,
diet.
do
Yeah.
you want to think about the road diet some more? Because we do have till the end of the month.
I think we need
Yes.
to.
So
have
do you,
some
if you want
time.
to chew on that some more,
Yeah.
because the Edgewood was really the one that we needed to get started on immediately,
Yes.
to get the feedback
You
we
guys
need.
Get a little more time.
So if you want to think about the road
Edgewood, yes.
diet.
Yeah,
Alrighty,
Edgewood,
yes.
yes.
So
So if
Edgewood,
you could-
yes, road diet, we'll come back to that.
Plus some scenarios about the road diet, if we need to use all of that now, or can we, like he said, piece it and do some later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need to go into closed session, so if
Okay.
you will,
We can-
if
I
they
think
can
we
come
have what
back
we
and
need.
do that for us in another meeting, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Well, we'll have plenty of time for
Okay,
that, but yeah,
perfect.
so but I think do we have what we need? I think we have what we need for now.
Have what you
So, and
need.
we'll come back at the second meeting in February to
Excellent.
finish this conversation and let you know how
Perfect.
it went with Edgewood. Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Leslie.
very much, Mr. Hart.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
and
you
Ms.
for breaking that
Bordeaux.
down.
Thank you.
All righty. We will now move on to our final work session item, a closed meeting for consultation with legal counsel for legal advice related to flood mitigation measures. I will now entertain a motion to enter a closed meeting.
Madam Mayor,
Counselor Woods,
I move to enter a closed meeting for consultation with legal counsel from the city attorney to legal advice related to flood mitigation measures and potential liability pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A8.
thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Excellent. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Shepherd,
Hey,
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards,
Aye.
motion carries.
We are now in closed session. Thank you. I hope to see you all back here at 7. All righty. I will now entertain a motion to reconvene in an open meeting.
Madam Mayor, I move that council reconvene in an open meeting and certify to the best of each member's knowledge that only lawfully exempted public business matters were discussed and that only public business matters as identified in the closed meeting motion were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Arrowood. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion by members of council? Ms. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
I,
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you very much. This work session is now adjourned. It is 7:05 and we are starting 5 minutes late. I'd like to call the February 13th, 2025 regular meeting of the Staunton City Council to order. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty, I love a packed house. This is very exciting. Tonight was my evening to do the invocation, and I'm doing something a little bit different this evening. I wanted to honor African American History Month, and I have an activity for everyone to do this as an interactive experience. So I'm going to read something about Carter G. Woodson, who is the founder, who came up with the concept of Black History Month. And while I do that, I would like you all to participate. So if you would not mind getting out your telephones, please. If you have a telephone, would you please get that out? And would you please go to menti.com? Counselors, please do this. Staff, please do this. Go to menti.com. And when you get to that point, you will see a little box that is going to ask you to put in a code. And when you get to that website, menti.com, please enter the code 79693173. So please go to menti.com. Is everyone there? Give me some time. Menti.com. And then enter the code 79693137.
173.
I apologize. I do that a lot. I switch numbers. Okay, so Ms. Smith, would you please go to the website? So what I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to see what is called a word cloud. And the word cloud is going to show you all of the words that people in this room are putting together, names and words that you associate with Black history and culture. So you see that it's already filling up. While you all do that, you can enter as many words as you want. And the more, if there's the most common words will be bigger. So as you do that, I will read about Carter G. Woodson. I'm sorry. In February 1926, Virginia native Carter G. Woodson, noted historian, educator, prolific author, and highly respected scholar, together with other prominent African Americans, founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, or ASNLH, and officially launched Negro History Week. This groundbreaking initiative quickly grew in popularity, spreading across the nation through schools and organizations, spurring the ASNLH to create and disseminate educational materials for the study of Black heritage and history. 50 years later, in 1976, the ASNLH officially made the shift to Black History Month, and in 1986, Congress passed Public Law 99-244, designating February as National Black History Month, and directed the President to issue a proclamation calling on the people of the United States to observe the month of February with appropriate ceremonies and activities. Ronald Reagan issued the very first presidential proclamation stating the foremost purpose of Black History Month is to make all Americans aware of the struggle for freedom and equal opportunity, and that the month was a time to celebrate the many achievements of African Americans in every field, from science and arts to politics and religion. In 2016, Barack Obama observed the significance of the 40th anniversary of National African American History Month, saying, "Let us reflect on the sacrifices and contributions made by generations of African Americans, and let us resolve to continue our march toward a day when every person knows the unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Carter G. Woodson, the man behind the month, was born in 1875 in New Canton, Virginia. He worked as a sharecropper, miner, and held various other jobs during his childhood. Though he entered high school late, he made up for lost time, graduating in less than 2 years. He earned a BA and master's at the prestigious University of Chicago before attending Harvard College, completing a doctorate in 1912. Dr. Woodson authored over 20 books, served as a principal and dean at several institutes of higher learning, and his plan to honor Black achievement has become part of Dr. Carter G. Woodson's great legacy, enduring as one of the longest-standing organized history celebrations in the nation. This evening, I would like to honor him and other famous and perhaps not so famous African Americans who have helped to build, protect, innovate, educate, farm, feed, entertain, inspire, lead, and labor at various jobs, big and small, paid and unpaid, to keep our families, communities, and country going. I am grateful for their contribution to American society, and I wish you all a happy Black History Month. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, can it be bigger? Thank
Ask it a
you.
lot.
Oh. So lots and lots of great words. Thank you all very much. Powerful, strength, resilient, kind, beautiful, family, heritage, George Floyd, civil rights, persistent, talented. Excellent. I'm going to ask Ms. Smith to please print that off. Thank you all very much for participating in my activity this evening. Are there any other, I'm going to skip matters from the mayor and see if any other counselors have anything to add to this evening's news. Anything to add? Matters from city council?
Not tonight.
Just big thanks to all the Public Works, did a great job. The snow, and thank you to the sun for coming out today too.
I'll say thanks to staff for organizing our retreat last week. It's always great to have that much time committed to team build, get to know each other better and plan for the city. So yeah, that was an enjoyable day and a half.
Thank you, Counselor Campbell. Well, then we'll move into the consent agenda, item A on the agenda. Per procedure memorandum number 14, it is the policy of City Council to have routine, non-controversial items placed on a consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be voted on in one motion. If separate discussion on any item is requested by any member of council, that item shall be removed and considered separately at the end of the regular meeting agenda. Do any council members wish to remove any items from the consent agenda to be placed at the end of the meeting for separate consideration? All righty, then I will entertain a motion to approve this consent agenda.
I second.
Was
No,
there a
you-
first?
We have to approve it.
No.
Approve it first.
Oh,
It's on your
Is-
paper.
in
Um,
red. Can you show? her?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Excellent. Is there a second?
I second.
All righty. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Miss Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Miss Park,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Airwood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you. We will now move on to item B, a very exciting one. A fire and rescue oath of office. Deputy Chief Brian Butler, Captain Adam Dolan, and Lieutenant Alex Forsman are here this evening, I think with family and friends and a few colleagues. So Ms. Beauregard.
I'd like to introduce first Chief Jason Ball to the podium, who I think is
Mhm.
going to do an introduction. And then, Madam Mayor, do you have the oath? I have this printed
I
out for
don't.
you. Okay.
No.
Pass that down to Madam Mayor, please. And Chief Ball and I were talking. It'd probably be good to do these one at a time.
Yes.
Yes,
So
agreed.
I'm going to let Chief Ball kind of kick us off here.
Yes,
So,
so Mayor Edwards, members
Yes.
of council, thank you for having us.
Wonderful
And
having
you
you here.
just took my thunder for,
Oh, shoot.
it's okay. No, we have 3 promotions tonight out of the 4 most recent. Unfortunately, PJ Sabol couldn't be here, but he has asked if he could come back in front of you at a later date because he would really like to do it. And I've spoken with Leslie about it and we will get that on the schedule. But yes, we have 3 for Deputy Chief, Captain, and Lieutenant. So once we call them up, along with them will be some of their family members that will do their pinning as soon as they are sworn in. So we are ready when you are.
Not sure what I'm supposed to
If you would like to come up front.
do. Okay. I'm happy to do that. This is my first oath of office.
All right. First, we have Deputy Chief Brian Butler and his wife Jennifer.
Got it. Right. Repeat after me. Raise your right hand. and repeat after me. I, Brian Butler,
I, Brian Butler,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform all the duties
discharge and perform all the duties
incumbent upon me as a lieutenant
incumbent upon me as a deputy chief.
oh, no.
for the City of Staunton Fire and Rescue Department,
For the City of Staunton Fire and Rescue Department,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Amen. Wait, I couldn't make any more mistakes.
That's your next one.
Oh.
Yep. So next we have Adam Dolan for his promotion to captain. Along with him tonight is his wife Kristen and his children Kaylee, Logan, Samantha, Leah, and Finn.
Start your own department.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Adam Dolan, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon me as a captain for the city of Staunton Fire and Rescue Department according to the best of my ability, so help me God. We're not getting this. Yes, sir.
Josh has been getting me.
All right, last we have Alex Forsman for lieutenant, his wife Emily, Robert, and his mother Janet, and Hayden.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Alex Forsman,
I, Alex Gordon,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties
all the duties
incumbent upon me
incumbent upon me
as a lieutenant for the city of Staunton
as a lieutenant of the City of Staunton
Fire and Rescue Department
Fire and Rescue Department,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Excellent. Congratulations. Oh, yeah. Is that it? Nothing else? Thank you all so much for coming. You all cut a nice picture up back there. A lot of support.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. All righty. Well, that was exciting. So we'll now move on to item B. No, I'm sorry, item C. A public hearing and consideration of a request by First Five Cousins LLC for a special use permit for a planned residential development consisting of 17 single-family attached dwellings located at 2311 Morris Mill Road. Ms. Beauregard.
Tim Hartless, our planning manager, is here this evening to walk through this item.
Wonderful. Good evening, Mr. Hartless.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. So this is a request for a special use permit by First Five Cousins for a planned residential development at 2311 Morris Mill Road. This property is located on Morris Mill Road near the intersection with Essex Drive. There are two other townhouse developments in the immediate area. The applicant requests this special use permit for a planned residential development for 17 single-family attached dwellings, also known as townhomes, with an associated parking lot that would be located on commonly owned land. The zoning is R4 high-density residential, and planned residential developments in this zoning district require special use permits. Surrounding zoning to the north is R1 low-density residential. To the east and west is R4 high-density residential. And to the south and across Morris Mill Road is the Fisher Auto Parts operation, which is zoned I1 light industrial. City's comprehensive plan designates this area as high-density residential, and the proposed planned residential development is consistent with that designation. I would point out that a minor subdivision plat will be required for some lot line revisions, and a site plan will be required for the construction of the parking lot and the stormwater management facilities. Planning Commission first considered this request at its May 18th, 2023 meeting. At that time, staff raised some concerns with the ownership and the maintenance of the common elements, the parking lot and the stormwater management facilities. At that time, the Planning Commission deferred action and gave the applicant additional time to supply us with those documents so that we could review them to ensure there would be someone responsible or some entity responsible for the ownership and the maintenance. Since that time, the applicant has supplied those documents, staff has reviewed them and determined that all of our concerns had been addressed. Planning Commission again considered this item at its January 16th, 2025 meeting. They held a public hearing. At that time, one person spoke with some concerns about noise from the HVAC units, and also noise from the parking lot. Planning Commission closed the public hearing and voted 4-0 unanimously to recommend approval to you. That approval came with some conditions. The first condition is that lighting shall be wholly contained within the site. Light poles shall not exceed 24 feet in height. Lighting shall be limited to that which is necessary for safety. Lighting shall not uplight or downlight building elevations. Lighting at the property line shall not exceed 1/2 foot candle. All dumpster pad locations or other trash collection areas must be screened with architectural elements such as fully opaque fences or walls, or built into the site or architectural design. All construction must comply with the provisions of the Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Code. The architecture of the buildings shall be designed so that the front facade of all dwellings faces Morris Mill Road. And finally, approval of the special use permit for the planned residential development includes approval of the restrictive covenants for the sole purpose of ensuring the association or other entity is responsible for the ownership and maintenance of the common elements of the development, such as common areas, open space, any recreational or other common amenities, and stormwater management facilities. Other provisions of the restrictive covenants are a private agreement between the association, individual property owners, and/or the developer. The City of Staunton has no party to, nor does it take any interest in those provisions, nor will the City of Staunton enforce or litigate any matters related to the restrictive covenants. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them at this time. Our applicant, Julian Wells, and his design engineer are also here. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions you may have for them.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Hartless?
One question, there are a lot of trees on that property. Are there any requirements that the landscaping elements be preserved? Any portion of it?
There are no requirements in this case for preservation of any trees or for planting of any screening. And that's because this is a residential use. And maybe, single family attached townhomes, but it's still residential. And the surrounding uses to the north are also residential. So there's no screening required there. And we don't require residential to screen itself from business or industrial uses.
Any other questions for Mr. Hartless? Mr. Wells, would you like to speak? Oh, there we are. Thanks. Mhm.
And I will remind you, this is a public hearing.
Good evening, Mr. Wells.
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Steve Driver. I'm the owner of Terra Engineering and Land Solutions, and we're located at 2374 Stewart's Draft Highway, Stewart's Draft. And we're representing Mr. Wells with this development plan. The plan was submitted to city staff, the site plan, last year, and it went back to them a couple of times. So we've adequately addressed all of their comments in regards to them being satisfied with the site plan. And also, we put together a minor subdivision plat for the townhomes. That's also been submitted to city staff and that's been prepared to their satisfaction as well. So unless you guys have any other questions for me, I'll sit down, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
From counselors. All righty. Well, if there are no questions, we'll begin the public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Driver. In a moment, I will open up the public hearing. This is a time that council sets aside to hear from citizens and others about the specific topic on the agenda. We ask that you please give your name, your address, and then keep your remarks at 5 minutes or less. When you reach the 5-minute time limit, I will let you know that your time has expired. For our Zoom participants, please raise your hand now, and if you wish to speak on this particular if you wish to speak on this particular public hearing. If you raise your hand during this public hearing, you will also be able to raise your hand during this council meeting for other public hearings and matters from the public. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes. Once everyone who wishes to speak has had an opportunity, I will then close the public hearing. I will now open the public hearing. So if you wish to speak, please approach the podium. And we will alternate between those physically present and those on Zoom with their hands raised. Again, this is a public hearing for item C. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on item C? Ms. Smith, do we have anyone online?
I have no one with their hands raised.
All right, going once, going twice. All righty, the public hearing is now closed. I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that City Council adopt the resolution as presented and approve the special use permit and conditions as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Arrowood. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Smith, please call the roll.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item D, a public hearing and consideration of a request by Management Services Corporation for a special use permit at 206 Frontier Drive for multifamily use in a B2 General Business District. Ms. Beauregard.
Tim Hartless is back to walk through this item.
Thank you.
Good evening again. As you said, Management Services Corporation has requested this special use permit at 206 Frontier Drive to construct 11 apartment buildings and 308 apartment units, as well as a clubhouse and a pool. The zoning is B2 General Business District, and multifamily uses are permitted by special use permit. The property consists of approximately 23.38 acres of land. It's located on the west side of Frontier Drive between Frontier Ridge Court and the Red Oaks residential development. The applicant has a contract to purchase the property contingent upon approval of this special use permit. Zoning to the north and south is B2 General Business District. To the east is B1 Local Business. To the west is R3 Medium Density Residential. Surrounding uses include single-family, multifamily, some business, a portion of the Betsy Bell Wilderness Park, and also the American Frontier Culture Museum. The city has conducted a parking analysis to ensure that there is enough parking for this use. As recently amended, our parking requirements for multifamily include one space for each studio efficiency or one bedroom, 1.5 spaces for each 2-bedroom unit, and 2 spaces for each 3-bedroom unit. Plus, there is a requirement for guest parking at the rate of 1 space for every 10 units. The applicant has proposed 544 parking spaces. They are required to provide 478 parking spaces. That's an excess of 66 spaces. Also, that those guest parking spaces can be dual functioning with the clubhouse and the pool use. So that gives them a total of 97 parking spaces that can be allocated for the clubhouse and pool. Parking requirements for those uses are determined based on the design capacity of the building. So in this case, 97 parking spaces may limit the size of that pool and that clubhouse. But staff has determined that there is more than sufficient parking proposed for this use. So the city's comprehensive plan future land use map designates this area as medium density planned residential and also as planned business. The medium density planned residential designation is consistent with the proposed multifamily use. Staff looked at the B2 General Business District regulations as terms of what it would be required for multifamily development. Our B2 regulations have very small minimum setback requirements. 5-foot front setback, 0 for the side and rear. This is sufficient for commercial development, but it's not suitable for residential development. So staff and planning commission are proposing some conditions that increase the setback requirements for this development from the adjacent residential uses. Staff also conducted an analysis because the comprehensive plan designates this area as medium density planned residential. We looked at our medium density zoning requirements to determine what the maximum density would be if this were R3 zoning. And we determined that under R3 zoning, 633 multifamily units could be permitted. The applicant proposes 308, which is less than half of what the R3 would allow for. The Planning Commission first considered this at its July 24th meeting. At that meeting, the commission considered the request, held a public hearing. During the public hearing, 7 individuals spoke in opposition to the request, expressing concerns with traffic volume on Frontier Drive. After closing the public hearing, the Planning Commission deferred action on the matter and requested that the applicant submit a conceptual grading plan as well as a traffic impact analysis. The applicant did provide that conceptual grading plan, and it has been reviewed by staff from our Environmental Services Division. They have not identified any issues. I would like to make it clear that a more detailed grading plan will be required during the site plan review for this development. Traffic impact analysis was provided. The city engineer reviewed that analysis. He also provided a copy to the Virginia Department of Transportation, and they did a courtesy review for us. The TIA included a study area, which included the intersections of Frontier Drive and Red Oaks Drive, and Frontier Drive and Frontier Ridge Court. The TIA concluded that at full build out, the apartments would not result in a change of level of service at either of the 2 study intersections. They also conducted a turn lane warrant analysis at Frontier Ridge Court intersection, as well as the proposed site entrance, the direct site entrance off of Frontier Drive. They determined that at the Frontier Ridge Court intersection, it just did cross the threshold to warrant a left turn lane. And at the direct entrance off of Frontier Drive, it was just under the requirements to require a left turn lane. The TIA concluded that they did not recommend any improvements due to the fact that it was just barely over the threshold. Although the TIA did not recommend this left turn lane, staff believes that a left turn lane at Frontier Ridge Court, Frontier Drive intersections should be strongly considered. Additionally, the study limits of the TIA did not account for a development in the county known as Vista Ridge. This development is located on Balderbrook Road, just outside of the city limits. And it includes approximately 400 multifamily dwellings, 267 townhouses, and 78 single-family dwellings. While it is not immediately adjacent to this proposed location, staff does believe that it is conceivable to assume that most, or at least a large portion of the traffic from this development would probably end up on this portion of Frontier Drive heading towards Richmond Avenue. At its December 19th, 2024 meeting, the Planning Commission considered the results of the TIA and took additional public comment. At the conclusion of the meeting, the commission decided once again to table action, and they requested that staff work with the developer to try to come up with some additional conditions that might address the concerns that had been expressed concerning traffic. Staff did meet with the applicant on January 3rd to discuss some possible solutions. At that meeting, the applicant proposed to phase the development into 2 phases, where the development would cap phase 1 at 154 units. And we determined that since 308 units had just barely exceeded the threshold to warrant a left turn lane, that it was reasonable to assume that 154 units would be well under the threshold, and that the left turn lane will not be warranted for phase 1. When and if the applicant decides to move forward with phase 2, both a new site plan and a new TIA would be required. By that time, the development at Vista Ridge should be underway. We should have a better idea of how the traffic from that development is impacting Frontier Drive. It also gives some time for staff to work with the county and with VDOT on a regional strategy to address some of the traffic concerns on Frontier Drive. Planning Commission considered the request again at its January 16th, 2025 meeting. On a 4-0 vote, the commission unanimously recommended approval of the special use permit with some conditions. The first condition is that as part of the site plan submittal for the project, a water and sewer engineering report will be required to be provided to the City of Staunton Department of Community Development to confirm anticipated demands and ensure adequate capacity is available and help determine tie-in points to the existing system. There shall be a minimum setback for all structures to be 25 feet from any property line and 5 feet from any parking area. There shall be a minimum 25-foot undeveloped buffer between the project and any boundary line of the Red Oaks development or the Betsy Bell Wilderness Park. These minimum setbacks from condition 2 can be included as part of this buffer. Screening shall be required between this development and the adjacent Red Oaks development and the Betsy Bell Wilderness Park. Screening shall consist of a planting strip which shall not be less than 5 feet wide, containing 2 staggered rows of evergreen trees planted 15 feet on center, or a double staggered row of evergreen shrubs planted 10 feet on center. Screening can be part of the 25-foot buffer requirement. The city horticulturalist shall approve the screening plan as part of the site plan submittal. A public access point shall be provided to the Betsy Bell Wilderness Park trail system. This access point shall be marked with a sign subject to review and approval by the City of Staunton Community Development Department. At least 5 parking spaces shall be provided near the Betsy Bell Wilderness Park. That trail access point, these parking spaces shall be made available for use by the general public, and they may be counted as part of the required parking for the development. Number 7 says lighting shall be wholly contained within the site. Light poles shall not exceed 24 feet in height. Lighting shall be limited to that which is necessary for safety. Lighting shall not uplight or downlight building elevations. Lighting at the property lines shall not exceed 1.5 foot candle. All dumpster pad locations must be screened with architectural elements such as walls or built into the site design. This will be reviewed as part of the site plan for the development. Separate site plans will be required for each phase of the development. Phase 1 will be limited to no more than 154 units. As a result of the concerns related to potential traffic increases on Frontier Drive, the city may require a new traffic impact analysis as part of the site plan review for any future phases. Phase 2 of the development will not be approved unless the results of the traffic impact analysis are deemed acceptable by city staff or the developer makes the necessary transportation improvements to adequately address the deficiencies. And the final condition is the entire development shall not exceed 308 units at total build out. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Trey Stegman, representing Management Services Corporation, is also here. Sure, he'd be happy to answer any questions you may have for him.
Well, I think my initial question actually goes to you guys instead. I assume I'm looking at the right people on this, but phase two build out, is that just contingent on occupancy of phase one or
Is this
interest
for
in
Mr.
that?
Stegman?
I suppose so,
Would Mr. Stegman like to
Yeah.
come and speak?
but I'm glad I was looking at the right people.
Yeah, it's like,
Choose some random citizen terrorize.
good
them.
evening.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. My name is Trey Stegman. I'm the Vice President Development for Management Services Corporation, corporately based in Charlottesville, but we do business all over the Commonwealth. I'm joined by Logan O'Day. He's the project engineer of record for the Timmons Group, who did the design work for our project. And I apologize, I did not hear your question.
Yeah, that's fine. I wasn't sure if I should ask Tim initially or you on that, but do you have a general timeline for phase two, for the second phase of this, or is that contingent on, how phase one goes for occupancy?
Of course, it's contingent on how phase one goes, reference lease up, reference strength of the market. We think the first phase is appropriate for this size market. 308 units would not be appropriate for this size market.
Okay.
So that's the reason for phasing it. And we think it's an appropriate splitting, if you will, of the proposed project.
Sure. Not straight in, not continual build. On
Correct.
that. Okay.
Correct. That's our intent.
Thank you.
I have a question. So working through this as a liaison with the Planning Commission, I appreciate your working with staff to identify a potential trailhead to Betsy Bell Park, Mary Gray. The city has a greenway plan that shows one of the routes through there coming through the city property behind this property. Would you all see that as there's going to be challenges if and when we ever get to a point where we're actually designing a greenway or some type of facility for that? There's obviously going to be challenges with the grade to get it down to Frontier Drive and potentially beyond. Would you all view that maybe down the road as a benefit or an additional amenity that you could work with the city around maybe the periphery of the property boundary to maybe accommodate that in the future?
Absolutely. I think it kind of came up when we met preliminarily with staff back in May of last year. We wanted to do some type of a trail connection to engage with the park since it was right there. The staff mentioned the greenway coming all the way from downtown Staunton all the way out to the Frontier Museum, and we thought it was a great idea. So absolutely, we would work with the staff and with the Parks and Rec Department on any type of coordination we can. It is our intent that that's a public amenity, a public connection through to the Betsy Park now. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I do have one. I'm just curious, one question for Tim. Just for my general knowledge, both the previous agenda item and this one, the condition related to lighting, do we rely on that for guidance at the site plan level, or do we have more in terms of standards in our ordinance that is considered as, I'm just curious of what.
Sure. So our ordinance in our entrance corridor requires full cutoff fixtures to ensure that all light is directed downward towards the area that it's intended to illuminate. Most of our lighting requirements are in the entrance corridor regulations. Outside of those regulations, we just have a general provision that says all lighting shall be directed away from residential properties and it shall not reflect or shine onto the public right of way.
Thanks, Tim.
If I could mention one more thing, just to address Mr. Arrowwood's question. From the city's perspective, phase two could not happen until either the applicant wanted to pay for improvements to Frontier Drive or the city County, VDOT had some kind of regional improvement
Yeah.
plan that was completed on Frontier Drive. Phase one would be permitted now under the current layout of Frontier Drive, but phase two is likely to not going to happen until improvements are made.
And it requires a separate site plan, is that right? Phase two?
It will require a new site plan and it will require a new traffic impact analysis as part of that site plan review.
Thank you, Mr. Hartless. No more questions anymore?
One other quick question. You had said that the Augusta County Development you said over 400 were anticipated?
That's correct. It's apartments, townhouses, and single family, and I believe it's somewhere between 600 and 700. I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but I want to say it was something like 680 units.
Right on 635 on Barterbrook.
Yes, right on Barterbrook Road. And it's very close to the intersection of Barterbrook and Frontier Drive.
They're turning dirt. They're building roads
Yeah,
out
I
there.
see it.
And do you know if that's in phases too? Is that in phases also? So we will get the traffic when it comes in phases, then we'll be better to understand the traffic flow.
I don't know that for certain. I know that right now, the county has approved a rough grading plan, a bulk grading plan for the whole site. They have not approved any specific site plans for any infrastructure associated with single-family homes or any kind of site plans for multifamily development yet. I'm sure that it will happen in phases, but I don't know that for sure at this point.
Okay. All righty, we'll move on to a public hearing. I will now open the public hearing. So if you wish to speak, please approach the podium and we will alternate between individuals physically present and those that have their hands raised via the Zoom platform. Again, this public hearing is for item D only, and you are asked not to speak on any topics that do not directly relate to this topic. Please state
Thank
your
you,
name and
Mayor.
address. Good
City
evening.
Council. My name is Linda Board. I live at 116 Red Oaks Drive, and I'm not here to complain about the apartments. I understand the desperate need for housing in Staunton, plus tax revenue, right? I think and I might say the setbacks and all, I have to admit I've encroached on your land a little bit. Those briars and the regrowth of all of that when they cut the timber for a paper mill, I might mention, those things have come very close. So I've sort of pushed them back, and also for erosion on my property when they cut all of the vegetation. So anyway, I admit I've encroached, but we can talk about that. There are only really 4 condo units that back up to that property. The others are the backs of the business unit. So, but I guess I'm here to say to City Council, and it's my understanding that Frontier Drive is the responsibility of the Augusta County and the city. I don't think VDOT, I don't think the state has any. So I'm here to say, start saving, well, I was going to say start saving your pennies, but please start saving your nickels because it's going to have to happen. You've also got the mall and some residential space there, and going from Greenville to Richmond Road, it's Frontier Drive. The other thing I might mention is when you come down Frontier Ridge, have you noticed there's this little mirror that's supposed to help people that are turning, I guess, left? That mirror, the wind blows it from place to place. So sometimes you come down and it's faced this way or it's faced that. That needs to be upgraded as we get more traffic coming down Frontier Ridge. So again, I'm not here to talk about the apartments, but I do please start looking for capital improvement plans and saving your money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone on Zoom, Mrs. Smith?
No, ma'am, we have no one with their hands raised.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Megan Hyatt and I live at 11 Oakview Drive. I'm in the Red Oaks development as well. Thank you guys. And I too understand the need for housing and the developments. I'd just like to continue to express what Lynn talked about as well, the need for the Frontier Drive expansion over time. I'm a young family and everyone needs to get to Walmart and the stores. And so as I look around the city and I see the development happening on Barterbrook Road and I see the development of the apartments and whatnot, I see that there will be a lot of increased traffic on Frontier Drive as you get from 262 to 81 and 64. That's the primary road you take. You don't take Statler. And so if the city would please continue to think about what is the path forward there. There's ditches on either side. And so even this week when it snowed, my husband said that there were multiple cars that had run off. And as they're towing, there's no room for traffic to go around on that road. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Smith, anyone online?
I have no one with their hands raised.
Last chance, Ms. Holberg. Good evening.
Hi, Sarah Holberg, 24 Church Street, Stanton. I have several just topics because this is such a critical parcel on a critical road. And so those two topics that I think are important citywide and this particular development brings them out in specifics. But one is trail access. And as part of the Bike Ped Committee, I guess we need to add Frontier Drive to that as well in terms of adding more people here. We're always hoping that Stanton is a place where you can walk or get transit and not need a car. And I think the parking minimums were adjusted so that you wouldn't need as many cars, but we need our development designs to reflect that and the adjoining properties and the overall city policies to help people be able to walk and bike and use transit instead of their cars. So I am thrilled that you all see the value of the park and of that trail. And one quick question, I hope that phase one would include that access or the work with the city on how that trail can happen. It would be a shame if that opportunity were closed off. So I was glad to hear your support for that. And will the city have a say in the location and the design of that access point? You obviously mean to, but in the wording, it just said access. I mean, you could clamber up the slope. Is that enough? I mean, just to ensure that the way that the access point actually happens, work with the city on that. And then just especially that greenways route, because I think would be helpful to everyone to be able to move around and recreation, but also somewhat practical. And then my other topic is lighting, which is changing quickly. The outside world, technology is changing so fast that the ordinances that are well-meaning, like Stanton's, just aren't effective enough with the new technology to actually give guidance and direction on what would minimize lighting. I don't know if at this point for this particular development, if the developers would be willing to go with whatever is required at a later time or what evolves or what becomes the standard. I have gotten the best advice that I can on how such standards could work. I can read it now or submit the sheet of paper, and I don't mean to bore you all, but I think these are things that are practical, and it shouldn't necessarily be a greater cost, but it would be a great benefit to the community if the lighting were a type that did not result in light pollution. And it's all possible, but Stanton is not alone at all. Most people's ordinances are not up to the task, but now I'm just saying that language is more available. And that would be things like saying that all fixtures be fully shielded, not just fixtures that are on light poles. The wall packs that are around, they need a shield. That all fixtures be directed downward to the targeted area to be illuminated, that fixtures should have bug ratings no greater than 0 or 1 for uplight and glare. And these are available with the fixtures that includes this rating. And it basically just means you're not going to have a glare bomb. It's just a way to pick a light. And that the parking light plan should consider backlight impacts and where it might intrude on interiors, i.e. shine in windows, provide a shield. Illumination levels shall not exceed the minimum of the Illuminating Engineering Society, which figures these things out. And they have said there's a range already built into that. So you don't need to say, oh, if this is the minimum, I should go higher. You actually should stick with that minimum because it's the right level. That fixtures have correlated color temperature no greater than 2700 K. This keeps moving down and down as research shows that human health is affected. And it's 2,700 now, it may be moved even lower. So this is human health, but think about the natural area that this site is next to. So flora and fauna would also appreciate the amber color that's more like the light that occurs in nature. Absolutely not the bright white. And then alternatives to overhead lighting might be things such as bollards or embedded fixtures rather than always have an overhead lighting. And it's important to include adaptive controls so that the lighting can be reduced in the wee hours of the morning. And no uplighting or downlighting of elevations, landscaping, or other features. The way it says now, it just says not uplighting elevations. Even if it were another developer or another person coming in, you wouldn't really want it necessarily to be uplighting the pool or something else. And
Ms. Holberg, we're
yes.
ran out of
Okay,
time.
thank you.
No, it's
I-
okay. Could you please, if you brought copies, could you bring
Yeah.
them to us?
Yeah. And that was actually the last thing.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Mhm.
Holberg.
Thank you.
Do we have another speaker online, Ms. Smith?
We do have no one with their hands raised.
All righty. Next, anyone else to the podium? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Edwards and council members. It's been a long time since I've stood up here,
Welcome.
so it's a pleasure to see you all. My name is Barbara Whipple. I live at 111 Madison Place. I will be very brief. I echo firmly all that Sarah just elucidated to you. This is a very, very important topic, lighting. And I just want to underscore the visibility of this particular location in Staunton. It has elevation. It is kind of our billboard to the east, because as you're entering Staunton, you will see everything that this turns into. We'll see what it turns into. So paying attention to these lighting recommendations is really crucial, and they're not hard to accomplish. They simply aren't. And Staunton needs to remember that people are looking at it now. They are really looking at this progressive, interesting community. And we have an opportunity to fulfill that idea. And we are. I mean, there's a lot of really great stuff happening. But I really want to underscore the lighting position and the need for applying all of the recommendations that Sarah has just given to you. And also for the Red Oaks folks, if it's not done right, they are going to be unhappy with what that lighting on that hillside does to their own comfort level. So that's the main thing, because a lot of my other statements I think have been covered very well. And I really appreciate the thought that the developers have put into this already. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Whipple. Thank you. Ms. Smith, anyone online?
We have no one with their hands raised.
No one with their hands raised. Mr. Burton, come on down.
Hello, Randolph Burton, 211 Hendron Avenue. I guess just want to add my voice to those also expressing the concerns about access first and integration with the trail. I think, putting some real teeth into it with language to make sure we know where we're going as opposed to just saying access, which really leaves a lot open to fit in. And again, with lighting, and I mean, I know we had the other project, which this isn't talking about that, but the same thing where it's not just about lighting elevations up or down, but just in general, keeping lighting down. It would be great to see more dark skies commitment from Staunton And these, again, these are things that usually they don't cost more, they often cost less. And using less electricity, not illuminating crazy amounts at all hours of the night. So again, it would be really great to see a commitment to smart lighting that's environmentally friendly and human friendly and wildlife friendly to keep things attractive. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do you have anyone with their hands raised?
No
Ms.
one with their
Smith?
hand raised.
Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak? All right. The public hearing is now closed. Is there, Mr. Rhodes, would you like to respond to anything? Is there, would you like to add anything to the? Or I'm sorry, Mr. Heartless, I apologize. You were hiding, Tim. Mr. Heartless, would you like to add anything to our presentation this evening?
So I will say that because this site is in the Frontier Drive entrance corridor, we will require during the site plan review that all fixtures be full cutoff, not just pole mounted fixtures, but wall packs and all exterior lighting fixtures would need to be full cutoff. We require with the site plan a photometric plan, which is basically it starts with a plat of the property, and then a lighting engineer will calculate light levels at specific points throughout the property. We require no more than a 1/2 foot candle spillover at the property line. If their lighting is designed in such a way that they would have more than a 1/2 foot candle at any property line, then we could require these backlight shields that Ms. Holberg was referencing. We required those Long John Silver's right there along the access road that goes up to Kroger. They installed those shields to make sure the light did not spill over onto that access road. Staff would be interested. We've talked, Mr. Rose and I have talked in the past about possibly doing some lighting amendments if council were interested in strengthening our lighting requirements. Staff would be happy to work on some amendments to do that. It might necessitate that we purchase some equipment, some light meters to measure where the light is on the Kelvin scale. I agree with what was said about the lower light levels on the scale, the more yellows tend to be more wildlife friendly. The higher numbers on the scale with more blue, they tend to be disruptive to wildlife. So if you all are interested in some amendments to strengthen our lighting requirements, I think you'll find that staff is happy
Thank you.
to work on something like that.
Thank you. I see all bunches of head nods, so I think that is a yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Heartless.
If I could add one thing
sir.
about trail access, that was something that I suggested back in May of last year, that the developer was eagerly said, yes, we'd like to provide public access to Betsy Bell's trails. And during the site plan review process, we will look at what they propose as access. And if it's not feasible, we will not accept it. So we will be looking at grades and whatnot to make sure that it's a true access.
It seems to me that it would be a benefit to the property to have that access there for residents. My daughter and son lived in Big Sky, and I don't think that it was intended to be right there by the trail access, but they could walk right out of their apartment and walk right up a Betsy Bell Trail. So it's definitely a benefit to the development.
Low cost amenity.
Any other questions? I'm sorry. Any concerns? I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that City Council adopt the resolution as presented and approve the special use permit and conditions as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Airwood. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Counselor Woods. Is there any further discussion?
I'd just like to say I went to multiple planning commission hearings where this was addressed, and I was impressed with the developer's willingness to work with staff and address the concerns and the issues also raised by Red Oaks residents with their traffic and other concerns. So I'm pleased with how this is developed.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Ms. Smith, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Forgot what I was doing. Thank you very much. We will now move to matters from the city manager. Ms. Beauregard, do you have
Madam
anything to
Mayor.
share with us this evening?
I just have one thing.
Okay.
So just a reminder that Monday is President's Day.
Mm.
And for the most part, we are closed. The library, administrative offices, and recycling center will all be closed on Monday to reopen on Tuesday. If you have trash collected on Monday, it will be picked up on Wednesday, the 19th. But if you're in the central business district downtown, you will have trash collection on Tuesday and Wednesday in addition to your normal pickup. So if you go to our newsroom on the main page, you can find all the details about this holiday and the closings. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Beauregard. So we come to matters of the public. This part of the city council's agenda is entitled Matters from the Public. It's a time that council sets aside to hear from citizens and others about a wide variety of subjects. A copy of the Staunton City Council's Matters from the Public rules are available in paper form at the clerk's desk and online on the City of Staunton's website. You are asked to familiarize yourself with those rules before commenting. Please come to the podium or begin your call, identify yourself, and complete your remarks within 5 minutes. As a reminder, this is a time for council to listen. If you would like an answer to a question or a follow-up to your comment, please speak with Leslie Beauregard, the city manager, after the meeting. Please come to the podium if you would like to address council. Ms. Smith, is there anyone online?
We do have someone with their hand raised.
Excellent. Please go ahead, speaker or caller.
Yes, this is Brenda Mead, 342 Sherwood Avenue. I listened to the discussion among council members during the work session about traffic and sidewalks, traffic patterns and sidewalks, and I'd just like to urge city council to step back and not look at how many seconds or minutes somebody might sit at an intersection and look at what city residents are asking for. Are residents asking for reducing their travel time through Staunton by 3 minutes? Or are residents asking for better pedestrian pathways and bike pathways and safer pedestrian and bike pathways through the city? So I just urge you to think about those things before you make any decisions. Thank you.
Thank you for your call. Next speaker.
Randolph Burton, 211 Hedron Avenue. So when the VDOT presentation was being made, and it wasn't really an opportunity for public input, so I just want to give it now as matters from the public. I'm first of all thrilled to see the effort to move ahead with sidewalks on Edgewood. As a pretty active pedestrian here, that's a extremely treacherous stretch to walk along. So I'm glad you're going to try to move forward with that. It seemed a lot of, consternation from council on the road diet and how we could maybe not spend money on some of these things, and I guess specifically saying, well, maybe we can just put it off till later. Well, I guess, looking at what you could see from cost escalations in these projects of putting them off later and putting them off later, I don't think it's going to get cheaper to do it 4 or 5 years from now. So if it is something that we want to do, and, I for one would like to see good, sidewalks and multi-use paths, that, we find the money and do it now, because if you're already have the project going and you have economies of scale, and you do it now, it's, versus 5 years from now, I think you'll end up with a much better situation. So just want to have you guys give serious concern to seeing what you could do to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burton. Do we have anybody online?
We have no one with their hand raised.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak this evening? All righty. Well, I will call this meeting of the Staunton City Council adjourned. Thank you for coming, everyone.